Hi, thank you for joining me today at Define Tomorrow 2020. The question that I seek to explore during this snippet is, has organisational innovation strategy been impacted by remote working, and how can those challenges be mitigated? In the most basic of terms, we recognise that innovation is the repurposing of old tools to solve new problems, or the use of new tools to solve existing problems. The odds are stacked against us for success. 85% of new ideas never reach a market. 60% of R&D projects are market failures. 40% of consumer products and services fail. And 20% of all business products and services fail. If we consider the evolution of the organisational communications, what once was a letter became an email, which later became a Teams message. What was once a face-to-face meeting became a telephone call, and more recently became a video call. We recognise the benefits of this evolution. Of course, there is likely some fear of change, but ultimately we recognise that the developments of moving from paper to electronic and the agile accessibility to information is in the same way as the wheelbarrow was a welcome shift from carrying tons of bricks. It just makes our lives easier and allows us to use our human skills for more creative purposes. On a macro level, there is a significant economical benefit to innovation. Since 2007, the UK government has invested £2.5 billion in assisting 8,500 businesses across the country to innovate. This investment has returned 70,000 jobs and an estimated £18 billion of value to the UK economy. That's a return on investment of 6.2%. Some organisations are further advanced in their innovation strategies. Some enjoy specifically objectivised R&D teams and clear innovation strategies and generous budgets. Some organisations have a clear driver of creativity and innovation through culture and reward, and plenty more achieve entirely accidental innovation through a collection of innovative minds. I'd like to think that you'll recognise your organisation in some points I will present, and I hope that by sharing some experiences and insights, this will help you to close any innovation gaps that you have knowingly or unknowingly experienced through the shift to remote working. My name is Jennifer Bennett, and I've spent more than 20 years in industry. My experience has largely been gained through people-centric roles, and I have experience in both R&D and technology organisations. For smaller organisations, we know that innovation has been achieved largely through geographical proximity. Being in the same place at the same time and sharing ideas and experiences has led to the creation of innovative solutions. How many times have you just shared an idea with your colleague who sits near you, or whilst you were walking for a coffee? Maybe the age-old idea of a water cooler chat that has sparked a thought process. When we enjoy geographic proximity, we get an insight into the tacit knowledge of our colleagues by watching, listening, and experiencing the way that they work. This tacit knowledge is so important. We know that tacit knowledge cannot be codified or shared easily. So learning from your own experience or watching someone else is the only method for replicating those tacit skills. Social capital is the links, shared values, and understandings in society that enable individuals to trust each other and so work together. And this social capital is the way in which we create networks. We instinctively know the people in our social circles who will be excited by new ideas, those who will constructively reinforce and build with us. And we all know the people who we wouldn't want to show our innovative souls for fear of rebuttal. Perhaps they knew it already or gave out intentionally or unintentionally the vibe that your ideas just aren't worth sharing. I can assure you there's a very quick synapse response in those people who felt rebuffed, and that makes it very challenging to share their next idea. Employees are considered to be one of the most important sources of innovation because they're close to the processes, products, and customers. They know them best and are thus able to identify potential for improvements and innovations. So we recognise so far that achieving an innovation is unlikely. We recognise that there is a high level of importance on delivering on innovation, and we recognise our employees are best placed to deliver that innovation. But that those same employees who have once enjoyed the benefits of geographic proximity and social capital are now, and without too much warning and planning, thrust into a new world of remote working. As we have ventured into this new and challenging world, where for some the challenge has been to their most primary of needs, their health, the government campaigns and unprecedented responses has created a fear throughout the community and certainly a great number of commercial concerns as recession loomed, and projects that in normal times would have taken a several member task force months to deliver as an agile working plan was delivered almost overnight. We might therefore expect that for many individuals and businesses, innovation has been overlooked and survival has become the pressing driver. However, if we align ourselves with the model of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whilst it would be reasonable to assume that self-actualization will be depleted, we can also see an impressive increase in personal innovation. Employees have been innovating exponentially, with many of them repurposing the skills and knowledge gained in their working lives to support their personal needs. We saw grandmas on Zoom, FaceTime for bedtime stories. My own experiences included seeing my 6-month-old niece almost every day of her life, but only twice physically. Whilst I've missed cuddles and even being able to help with the normal newborn challenges, I've benefited from seeing her each and every day, a luxury that we would not have made time for in normal circumstances. I can only hope that as Evie grows up, she doesn't think that Auntie Jen is a face that lives inside of a phone. The COVID-19 epidemic has arguably come at the best time in terms of technical competency. We have a wealth of tools, both devices and software, all readily available for our consumption. Devices that are as easy for babies to use as great-grandparents. Make sure it's charged, press a flashing button, and see your family on video. It really couldn't be much simpler. It would be reasonable to not have been able to comprehend a world in which our grandparents would have invested in a laptop. My own grandmother didn't change her TV channel unsupervised for 2 years after my granddad died for fear of not being able to get her beloved BBC back. And yet now we find ourselves in a world where 47% of over 75-year-olds in the population have internet access. So whilst we recognise that we are the best place we've ever been, we must not overlook the challenges that present and hinder innovation. There are some very basic points in this assessment, such as reliability of signal quality. We are all reliant upon consistently good signal strength to ensure that our platforms deliver good quality. Communications are incredibly challenging when we're experiencing stability issues, pauses, freezing, the loss of audio, and that's before you've inevitably missed your moment because you're on mute. There's likely a great deal of video phobia. If we recognise our millennial demographic have grown up texting and this has led to a fear of talking on the phone, the video platform is a fairly new tool for most, and imagine the operator discomfort of our older demographic. One of the key limitations of video platform is the way in which we usually, with the benefit of geographic proximity, use non-verbal communication as a means to expressing and understanding. 7% of our communication is made up of words. 38% is tone of voice, and the other 55% is body language. You'll appreciate the challenges of presenting to a virtual room and being entirely unable to rely upon the presentation skills you've developed in spotting whether the group is engaged, whether a point requires a deeper clarification, whether there's a shy colleague who always has a brilliant perspective on something but needs a prompt to contribute. It's virtually impossible, given our limited at-home setups, to really be able to gauge eye contact and whether a person is even looking at you in forums of more than 2 participants. We know that virtual meetings have a clearer agenda than those accidental water cooler moments. We make them efficiently purposeful. We create clear agendas which are top and tailed by clear timings, and we slot them neatly alongside the next appointments to be super productive all day. However, the drawback of that efficiency is that the chatter is lost. We've curtailed an interesting conversation because we prescribed a finish time, and the brilliant idea had not yet found its way to the table. Does the thought leader remember to bring the idea next time, or is it forever forgotten and potentially joining the other missed opportunities or failed innovations? Also, whilst being entirely purposeful and productive, we're not building new networks. We're working with laser focus to ensure deliverables land, but we're not creating new relationships and identifying new connections with whom the creativity sparks may fly. We're not experiencing other people's tacit skills and knowledge because there is seemingly no reason to do so. How different this scenario is when you just build social links with colleagues in the same geographic proximity. As an organisation, Computer World were reasonably well equipped for an unexpected event which took the form of a pandemic. In February 2020, we'd rolled out the message to our team of agility. We'd rolled out this agile message in a very non-innovative way by showing a 1980s video to the team. And if you haven't read Who Moved My Cheese, buy a copy or watch the really poor resolution video on YouTube. It's a brilliant reminder that we always need to be ready for tomorrow and not find too much comfort in yesterday. We already knew that our competitive value was to be able to adapt in any industry circumstance, and we are, of course, in the innovation business. We were well placed because our team is largely made up of engineers, and when I say engineers, I mean people with inquisitive minds who challenge the norm and recommend new ways of doing things. This way of being is built into our culture and DNA. But we also had the benefit of clearly defined communications methods to ensure that we knew exactly how and what to communicate, which is beautifully simplified in our communications charter. We quickly understood the risk presented to our innovation strategy, so we did many things that you'll be familiar with in your organisations. We increased our comms, we presented more regularly on the challenges being faced and the methods we would use to drive survival, but not to the detriment of our innovation strategy. Like many, we opened a social chat channel on our Teams group. Sometimes this channel was used for work conversation, but mostly for sharing gifts, long sessions of punning, and discussing lunch and dinner options. But the content here was unimportant. The key was the social network that was created. However, the innovation that had always come so naturally to us through the traditional water cooler chat and the team events and the inquisitive minds and the sharing of ideas with the informal walk to the shop to grab a sandwich with peers had vanished overnight. So we'd sought to identify methods to at least protect our innovation. And these may also be familiar to you, or they may be the next great idea for your organisation. So far, to recap, we know that innovation is really tough to deliver. Most of our innovation comes from our people. Loss of geographic proximity is a barrier, and that video platforms, whilst wonderful, present their own challenges associated with access to technology and non-verbal communication. Therefore, to reduce the barriers and to be most successful in delivering your innovation strategy, we recommend to you that you spot your bumblebees. These are cross-pollinators. They're voracious ideas people. They will spot something, take knowledge, deliver new thinking, and go at old problems in new ways. Permit them to play. If you bury your bumblebees in business as usual, they will still bring knowledge, but they won't have the time to buzz around and generate new thinking and seek new knowledge. Often we already know who our bumblebees are, so engage them. Task your bumblebees with innovation challenges and as being your innovation champions. These networkers will delight in spreading the word, promoting the cause, opening conversations with those outside of their normal network sphere, and inspiring thoughtful ideas from colleagues. Teach your bumblebees everything you can about the challenges and the methods of innovation and creativity. Help them to understand how to deliver innovation successfully and the potential barriers that are faced. Encourage them to actively pollinate the business with this knowledge and to spread the innovation word. Now, we know that some ideas just seem really bad. Think of the Fosbury flop. Fosbury never enjoyed the high jump style of his time, preferring his scissor kick, which limited his capabilities to jumping a bar that was only 5'10". He adjusted his scissor kick until eventually he was almost going over the bar backwards. Now, his coaches were convinced that he would break his neck, but actually after a year of adjustment, he broke national Olympic records and made others realize that there was a better way. So yes, ideas often seem bad, but let them settle. Ensure that you capture as many ideas as you possibly can, because even the bad ones are perhaps just not of their time yet. For the ideas that you record, undertake a clear assessment of those ideas and decide to push through, fail fast when necessary, not so fast that you never give them time to take seed. All ideas need time to cultivate. Be diverse in your approach. Be wise enough to know when you're on the right path and humble enough to know when you reach out for support. Tap into your team to understand what the market wants and how they want it delivered. You do not need to know everything. You can make use of the network at your disposal too. Your network will also present a different perspective. Perhaps they're younger, older, or have come from a different industry or culture. And all of these factors will give you a different viewpoint and perhaps keep you current. Actively create mentoring programs, bring on the next generation and work with them for their insights. Encourage that insight. No idea is a bad one. Be a coach and poke with encouragement. Statements like, and then what shall we do? To give positive recognition and ownership of the idea at the same time. Spend on learning. If you feel pleased that you're able to cut your L&D budget this year, then you should be worried about how you're developing your inquisitive minds. Minds that are learning will continue to seek out new knowledge. Every time you lay a building block of knowledge, other blocks will fall into place in your organisation. Bridging those knowledge gaps will ensure that your employees become your talent and they will contribute to your innovation. If you want to have real fun with your innovation strategy, take away something that you've become dependent upon. You'll quickly see that your resourceful teams find new ways of adapting. It may well be that the new way could be better and more efficient than the way that you've become used to. But most importantly, know the barriers to communication and overcome them. Create time to play sessions, find methods to bring together networks and celebrate all ideas, even the bad ones, and do so with a level of encouragement that makes the originator want to share their next idea and the next. Task the whole organisation with being innovative, create an R&D budget, even if you don't have the luxury of being a sizable organisation who needs one. If it's important to you, measure it. Set some compelling organisational and individual goals. May it be to achieve 50% of your annual revenue from innovative ideas developed in the last 4 years or something similar. Have this organisational objective recounted and measured regularly. Only then will you know that you've achieved the innovation success that you sought. Thank you for your time and consideration on this subject of how organisational innovation strategy has been impacted by remote working and how challenges can be mitigated. Please, if any of this content has resonated with you or sparked some ideas, take a moment to capture them and then maybe discuss them with a colleague. It might just be the start of the next great idea. Thank you.